And we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Bearded Men of Real Estate Show. I'm Ray. Say hi, Dan.
Hi, Dan.
And this is Dan. And if you're watching us live, you notice another black panel with our logo and a little wave. That means we're also live in Clubhouse. So anyone right now can say anything because the mic is open, and everyone will, and everyone in the YouTube and Facebook sphere, which we're also broadcasting, will be able to hear. If you haven't joined us on Clubhouse, feel free to look us up there. We're in the Real Estate Networking Club, so you can search us that way. If you're listening to us live in Clubhouse, you can also click the Real Estate Networking Club, the little greenhouse at the top. Be sure to follow the club, and you can also follow my face. That way you're notified of whenever we go live here. If you're watching us on YouTube or Facebook, you can follow and click the bells for notifications. If you're watching this in a replay, down, usually most people watch it on YouTube in replay. At the very bottom, we'll have a description of all the news stories we're going to cover. And we have a timestamp, so you can go right to that next news story. What are these news stories, you ask? Well, today we're going to talk about the slight drop in mortgage rates and the headlines that's violent. We're going to talk about an NAR study that it was actually a couple of weeks ago, but we had so much news a couple of weeks ago, we didn't include it in the show. It's talking about young adults entering and dominating the housing market. We're going to talk about pending home sales, what's up or down with them, and homeowners turn to smart homes. So if you have smart homes or smart home tech in your home, and you probably put it in there last year from these statistics, we'd love to hear what you guys are using. And lastly, we want a broader discussion with other real estate professionals on what exactly is going to happen this spring. And so that's kind of what the thumbnail was based around too. The fall of real estate in the spring, question mark.
Yeah, how far behind are we because of the Rona? Because of what that first month or two break that we all kind of had to take until we figured out if we were still working or not. You know, so how far are we really behind? When is the fall of real estate?
How much will the sales continue to extend? Will the sales continue to extend on into the next year, or are we going down? So we're gonna have a broader discussion at the very end of the show that'll kind of like, I guess you could say, add up all of the articles. But if you are watching us live and you want to chime in about any of those things, you can do it one of three ways. You can raise your hand or flash your mic if you're already on the stage in Clubhouse, and we could come to you live. I can't really hear you say anything until I say, okay, Matt, share with us your thoughts. And then I hit the mute button and then we can hear you. Or you can make a comment like several people have already done who are watching us live on YouTube and Facebook. So let's see. Melissa Marshy joined us. She says, "You're lucky I don't have Clubhouse. Sometimes I say things." The mic was open when we launched, so I appreciate that, Melissa. Thanks for filtering your comments. And then Matt, producer Matt, he says, "Next up, live on TikTok." Maybe. I mean, I've got a lot of hands going on right now, so we'll have to figure it out. Mario Flores, he's joining us. Hey man, how are you? Michelle West joined us on Facebook. Hello, Bearded Man, she says hello. And then Dusty Martin, Edward Caro. So we have, I would say we have a good smattering of individuals, but we always want to grow the audience, because the thing that makes our podcast different is actually taking comments live on the show, integrating it into the show, and then having a discussion. As a matter of fact, last week was crazy because we were talking about a company that was brand new. One of the guys that's like higher up in the company was on the show, and he was like, "Hey guys, I'm watching your show. Yeah, I'd love to chime in when you're talking about my company." Like, sure.
Like, so, how meta can you get?
Yeah, that was rad. So one of the things that makes us different, one of the things we love about the show is the interaction. So please feel free to comment or come up to the stage if you want to add something to it. But Dan, before we get into all this glorious stuff in the show that we're going to cover today, could you tell us a little bit about what this show is actually all about?
Yeah, I would love to. And I'm going to get you today. I am going to 100% get you today. All right. But when I met Ray here on the interwebs, I'm up in it 20 years ago. We've known each other for a long time. And in the first early days of AIM, AOL Instant Messengers, we met.
Love that.
But obviously I'm a bearded man of real estate. So I had an idea for a show. And then when I met Ray, I noticed something very interesting about him.
Really? What'd you notice, Daniel?
He used to have dreadlocks.
You know, I didn't have dreadlocks, but my best friend in high school did, and I didn't find out about it. So I went to high school, like he shaved his head bald just like I am, right? And so we go off to college and everything, and then someone sends me a picture and says, "Is this Greg?" I'm like, no, that's not Greg. Greg was bald. No, my best friend, who I didn't see because we went to different colleges, had grown dreadlocks down half of his back. It was the sweetest. It was so cool. I was so envious. I had long hair down to my shoulders, but I couldn't do the dread thing. So I do love. I love the look, but I couldn't pull it off.
Same. I've always, I've always grown my hair out from time to time. I've always loved the look. And I had a good friend in high school as well that had, we were 14, 15, 16. He had dreads down to his butt. They were like, they were committed early on, So,
it's so cool, but it's so stinky.
But obviously I noticed that he's a beautifully bearded man as well, but he had a layout for the show. It's the same layout we use, the same format we use today. But I also noticed that he loves giving value up front to not only his clients, but just to humans in general. So the show's about being more as an agent, but also being more as a human.
Yeah. And one of the things that we think gives value back to our clients is to know what in the world is going on in the world. So I read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad growing up. I like that one. And then I read Rich Dad's Guide to Investing when I was in high school. And one of the things he talks about in that book is looking at different things that are happening in the economy. Looking at what the Fed's doing, looking at what lumber prices are doing, looking at what housing demand is doing in supply and land and labor, then being able to take all of these little pieces to the puzzle and figure out what might be happening next. And if not figure it out exactly, at least have an idea of what's going to happen instead of these theoretical, analytical data dumps that you're trying to just take a guess, right? It's more than a guess. If you know what's happening economically behind the scenes, you can make some pretty, I'm not going to say accurate predictions of what happens.
Educated guesses, though.
But you have some educated guesses that'll at least give your clients the best foot forward in what might be coming, which we'll talk about at the end of the show. Could it be a real estate fall in the spring? So there you go.
Fall in the spring.
So
one of the other things we do is that we sorry, Ray, but we get away from the sensationalistic headlines, and
right.
It's possible that if we were more gotcha headline guys, that maybe we'd have 80,000 viewers every week. But we get past that. We look past that. We help break it down for not only you, whoever's watching. This isn't just for real estate agents, but this is also for consumers. We help break that down because we believe that having this knowledge helps us make those bold and educated predictions of where our clients need to be.
Well, it does for sure. There have been several times where some of the topics on our show came up in listing presentations, and because
100%.
I knew what was going on and I could answer the questions, I got the listing. So it's vital and super important as a real estate agent.
Yeah, now, but you guys don't need to do that. We'll do it for you, and then you just watch the show every Wednesday at 1 p.m. on the Cheese Toast, and you're good. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, there you go. So thanks everybody again for joining the show. Please share it if you're on the networks. And are you ready to get into these headlines?
100%.
Let's do it. That was very soft. I like that one. So very soft transitions. And we always talk about transitions. We're always so smooth with them that you don't have to talk about them, but we talk about them anyway because that's how we roll.
Yes.
All right. So let's get into this first article. This sounds terrible. I'm going to read you the headline as it is on CNBC. Okay. A slight drop in mortgage rates didn't stop the bleeding in refinances.
Right.
I feel like that's how it should be read.
Yeah, the hemorrhaging.
The hemorrhaging. That's next week's headline. They can't just use all of it. They gotta say it for next week.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's going on? Higher mortgage rates are hitting the refinance market hard, and many may finally take their toll on home buyers. Mortgage application volume fell 2.2%. Wait.
well, wait. I thought it was bleeding.
Wait. You're bleeding out. Mortgage refinance. This is terrible. It's bleeding. 2.2% is what it fell.
Wait, is that for the week?
Previous week. Yeah. Compared to the previous week. So
that's good.
As a result, applications to refinance a home did decrease a whole 3% for the week and were 32% lower than a year ago. Now, remember last year, that's when rates really started to tank because we were just into the pandy. We've been now 2 weeks and a year out. And so they were 2 weeks into what's going on with the pandy. Remember, we can't say the thing because then we'll get tamped down on all the social networks. So we don't actually say the word that rhymes with Arona iris. So,
it's a good dish, by the way, at your
that's a good. I love the Arona iris at the local pasta shop. So we don't even have pasta shops like that in Arkansas, but that would be a good one. Okay, so remember that's when rates started to go down. They started to drop, and everyone said, "Whoa, we're going to refinance our house." And a lot of people said, "We're going to refinance our house because we're not going to sell it this year." And they were taking advantage of historic low rates.
Yeah, and remember, they were probably at 5, 6, 7%. So they were halving their, if you had 3.5%.
Yes. Yeah. The people that had the homes had bought them at 4.5%, 5.5%, 6%. They were now refinancing a year ago. So it was a huge surge in refinances. So no wonder that we're down 32% compared to a year ago. Quote from Joel Kahn. He's the Mortgage Bankers Association economist. He said, higher mortgage rates continue to shut down refinance activity as the pool of borrowers who can benefit from the refinance further shrinks. In other words, a lot of people who are going to refinance probably already did.
Right.
Now this is interesting. Mortgage applications to purchase a home fell 2% for the week. Another slight fall. I mean, that's almost flat. Okay. But what were they compared to a year ago? 39% higher. So now remember, same thing I just said. A reason why they were 39% higher than a year ago is because we did go through a lull when all of the showings stopped. You remember the data that Showing Time had released back when everyone liked them. That the showing, that was just a slight with the Zillow thing that we've already discussed. Anyway, I still use them. I still like them. Anyway, they had some really cool data that they released that showed the decrease in showings right before it started to go back up in April. So this is the time of year a year ago where it was down. So you're going to hear 39% higher than a year ago. Now, don't fret when in 4 weeks, mortgage application volume is either flat or only 1 to 2% higher. And you're thinking, whoa, I thought it was like 40% higher than a year ago. We'll see what happens. But I think there's a lot of news media that's kind of seeing this dip and saying, oh, it's good now. And then in like 2 or 3 weeks, it's going to be, the crash, because mortgage application volume will be lower than a year ago because we had a huge spike in mortgage application volume. So anyway.
Well, and remember, this is about the time, maybe it was a little further into the Rona, but it was about the time when we started talking about, is this going to be a V-shaped recovery? Is this going to be a W? And then Gary Keller very cleverly talked about a K-shaped recovery. So it's about that. And you saw that everything went down and then all of a sudden it came back up very, very quickly. So, it's interesting. And by the way, I think they should rename this article and just call it, if somebody wanted to refi their home, they probably already have.
Yeah.
That's be the headline of the article.
Joel Kahn is saying.
Yeah.
All right, so that is the refinance story. If anyone wants to talk about that story specifically, just raise your hand. We'll bring you up to the stage, and you can add a couple of words on that. I don't see anyone in the clubhouse, but we do have a couple of comments. Michelle West says, "Yay, I got you. I must have joined another Beardman club. Lucky me."
Yeah, she couldn't find us on Clubhouse, so she's like,
"All right,
oops."
Oh, good. Is she in there? Oh, cool. We should bring her up to the stage. I don't think I'll have to find her in there and follow her on Clubhouse too. Okay. And then let's see, Antonio Estella. Now he is from Clubhouse and he's joining us now through Facebook. So welcome. He says, "What up, gentlemen?" Debbie Rice Miller says, "Hey." So I think this is a good non-story, which is why there's not a lot of compliments on it. I'm not surprised. Compliments. There's not a lot of comments on it either because it's really not that big of a story. Basically the rates dipped a little compared to last week, but that really didn't help refis. Okay. It was only 2% off.
And even when you take that 32% number, when you really think about it, it's not that big a deal.
It's not that big of a deal. Even the 39% higher than a year ago, that's also not that big of a deal because
not really
the slump that happened during this time period. So we really need to get on the 3 weeks out and then we'll see what's kind of happening. But then it'll be a false high last year. I don't know. There's no way to usually they do seasonal adjustments for holidays. There's no way you could do like a pandy adjustment.
Yeah, a Rona adjustment. Yeah, but we'll be here to break down the news as it hits. So don't worry, we got you.
Yo, San Diego in the house. David Fresco is joining us. Hey, man.
All
right, Dan, let's get to the next story.
All right. So this is a study from NAR, the Nationalist, not NAR, which is Ray and I's new National Association of really realistic realtors. Right. This is from NAR, right? National Association of Realtors. Young adults eagerly entering and dominating the housing market. First-time home buyers are swooning over housing. Millennials are comprising. I feel like whoever writes these articles, they're always in their thesaurus. Like, what's a word? Like, and I'm not saying a bad thing about it, but I just like swooning. Like, really, like, oh, I love this housing market so much. Like, are they honestly really swooning?
Honestly, a lot of the news that we cover on the show, it's not new news. It's different versions of similar studies. Right. So yes, if the source is in order.
Yeah. Oh, there's a great comment from Howard. We'll come back. Let me get to the article and we'll come back to Howard's. But yes, I've been messing with that filter. So I'm curious to see what Ray would look like. But first-time home buyers are swooning over housing. Millennials are comprising the largest share of buyers at 37%, shows the National Association of Realtors' newly released 2021 Home Buyer and Seller Generational Trends Report. Now, my first question is, can we report on what generations are doing, and could this be considered steering if we're talking about generations or some sort
ageism?
of ageism? Yes, or some sort of
No, I think the rule is you can be ageist against the young but not the old, or something like that. I don't.
Yeah, which is like,
nah, but it's nothing like that.
Yeah, you're 21. You shouldn't be buying a house. Stupid. Get out of here. Like, what? But anyway, sorry. The youngest buying generation, Gen Z, is also starting to emerge. And I believe I talked to Matt, who is a Gen Z-er. He was born in 99, I believe. So they're starting to get out there, which is cool because millennials have been so delayed for a lot of reasons. The majority of millennials and Gen Z buyers are first-time home buyers and are increasingly relying on real estate professionals to navigate their home buying debut in what has become a very competitive housing market, which is not new news. During the Rona. In particular, younger millennial buyers ages 22 to 30 were the most likely to cite a real estate agent as a prime information source they used during their home search at 91%, according to the survey. That's pretty cool. So there's all this tech out there, right? We're always talking about the Zillow and the Trulia and the, which app is coming next to take our job or whatever. Or which iBuyer is going to take a chunk of our business or whatever that is. But it's cool to know that they still rely on us humans, for that true guidance, so those of us who are true professionals in this industry, we're benefiting from that. And I think that's an amazing thing, especially by the younger ones, because now I don't know what, 5 generations ahead of Gen Z now. I don't even know.
Right. Well, and I think it kind of goes back to our earlier discussion a couple of weeks ago on Zillow, where I think there's a place in the market for both. There's a place in the market for both versions of what we do.
Yeah.
If you have an investor or something like that, it's looking to move quick and they're, just trying to, for them to be able to click a button and sell a house, I think that's going to be great. And I think that's going to help them. For them to be able to click a button and buy a house, wonderful. But you have a whole group of people that are buying their first home. And although they're well-versed, I think this happened a couple of years ago. We were seeing a lot more people come into our offices and kind of know it all, like where they'd say, well, it's supposed to work like this and it's supposed to happen like this. And you're like, well, that's not in our area. Like, where'd you find that information? And they're like, well, I Googled it. So I think now the information is better and people are using their access to real estate agents better. I think I like where we're headed as an industry.
Yeah.
Where agents will have to be more professional and will provide better service. And there's an option for those people that don't want to use the agent, that don't want to go that route. I think having an option for them is great. I think there's room enough for all of us.
It does force us to kind of up our game as real estate agents. If we're good,
which is kind of why we started the show.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, we were very verbal about when we started the show. Like, hey, this is about, we're showing you what good agents should be doing and what to expect. And we used to say it on the show all the time. Yes. They need to be knowing these articles. They need to be, make them work for you, and now we've affected the entirety of the world's population of realtors. And now we're good, except for a couple that I'm working with right now, but they don't watch the show. But anyway, so many young adults are searching for homes in the suburbs, which I think is really interesting because we talked a lot about, leaving this and, leaving the cities and going out a little further, which is, this is spot on for that. 54% of homes purchased by buyers between ages 31 to 40. And it says considered older millennials. It's kind of sad. Just why do they have to say that? Just I don't know. It's just that's kind of it's funny to me. Millennials. Yeah, but they were located in a suburb or subdivision. So despite the growth in remote work since the Rona, quote unquote, convenience to the workplace remains a strong factor in neighborhood choice among the 22 to 30-year-old age group.
Right.
And this is a quote from Jessica Lotz, who is the NAR's VP of Demographics and Behavioral Insights. She walks a lot of fine lines, I'm guessing, with her job. But she says the younger millennials overwhelmingly answered that they prefer to live closer to work, as many don't want a long commute. And this was evident in their buying habits. And she goes on to say, additionally, both of these groups also placed a high value on being close to family and friends, as 57% said that dynamic factored into what neighborhood they ultimately chose. So the biggest takeaway, in my opinion, Ray, is the 91%. That's, if you were in the 50, 60, 70% range, that's overwhelming. So 91% still choosing. And maybe they do the searches online. Maybe they add, it adds to what the realtor does, but 91% are still using actual human beings, which is so cool to me.
Yeah. And I do want to bring someone up. I'm going to call him out because he's making good comments on YouTube, which we really appreciate the comments and the follows on YouTube. And let's see. First, Melissa Mars says, I'm not the baby in the room for once, because there are others.
Yeah.
Mario Flores says the hand holding of a vetted professional is still wanted and needed. First time buyers don't know what to do and have no idea about this process. So this is coming from a guy that's making an app to help them with the process, saying that.
But remember though, what, a year and a half ago, it was just going to be one button and you buy your house, no inspections, none of this, and it saves you time, saves you money. But people are like, I don't want to make such a big decision by pushing a button. I don't want to do that. They've obviously responded with that. So it's kind of what we predicted here on the show.
They did get that no inspections part right, though. That's happening more often now.
No inspection, no appraisal.
So Ryan, and I don't know if he's available to speak or not. I've added him up into Clubhouse. He says it's more than hand-holding. Even non-first-time home buyers would prefer being guided and protected through the process, and sometimes hand-holded.
Yeah,
that's good. Ryan, all right, Ryan's up. I'm going to bring him up on Clubhouse. Ryan, tell us more. Tell us your age too, because you're a millennial, and tell us what you're thinking on this.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Cool. This is actually my first time to speak on Clubhouse, so I'm excited. Kind of feels giddy, but yes, also a millennial. I just turned 28. Working in the Little Rock market with the Ray Ellen. So glad to be on the podcast. I think a lot of the tools, all the different apps and technology, they're definitely supplemental and they provide a lot of value. But it is encouraging to hear, the 91% still want to work with a professional. And me and Ray have had, talked about this a little bit. I don't really have anything other to add, but I'm glad to be able to speak and jump on the podcast and here on Clubhouse. You got any questions or anything you wanted me to speak on, Ray?
Well, I know you're working with a lot of home buyers. What percentage of your home buyers are younger or as old as you are?
All of them are either around my age, within 2 to 3 years, except for one client is a little bit older. But I would say right now, 85% of my clients this year have been within 5 years older or younger than me.
Okay. And what is your primary lead gen source for those? Are you getting them from things like Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, or are the people who you're working with about your age because you are working within your sphere mostly?
So I would say 80% are within my sphere. I have, used, I do have a couple clients that have been Zillow, or realtor.com. But 80% of my business this year and 80% of my business last year were all through my sphere, word of mouth, or referral based.
Awesome. Well, that's great. Well, thanks for sharing. And that's kind of what I was thinking too. Like, people are going to work with people that are like them. And when they see someone like Ryan, who's a real estate professional in the industry, they're going to go to him for questions because, you know, they could use a computer, but when Ryan's their friend and having coffee with them and hanging out with them, then why not just ask Ryan?
And one last thing, Ray, if you don't mind, I would say one thing that you do well, and one thing I try to do well, is to educate. So people oftentimes want to be educated, entertained, or encouraged. And if you can provide value, especially within your sphere, be a person they can go to just for questions when it comes to real estate. Provide that, information, provide that value anytime you can. People will not only just as somebody that's a real estate agent, but somebody that is continually trying to add value to their life and can be a resource. So that's one thing I've learned just within my network. It's not, hey, buy from me. It's, hey, let me add value when I can and when I'm encouraged or invited in that provide that value. So that's what I would say.
That's good, man. Good word. Well, thanks for sharing. Thanks for coming on Clubhouse. And I'm happy to be your first Clubhouse experience. So welcome.
Yeah. Thanks. Thanks, Ray.
So there you have it. Out of the mouth of an quote older millennial. Is that what the article said? So
he's not there yet.
He's not there yet. You have to be right over 30. Well, he's 28. So I mean, it's almost.
Well, I think it's funny that everyone's within 5 years of him because I'm 20 years older than he is, and everyone's way younger than me. Most of my clients are in their either late 20s or mid 30s is where my clients are. So it's. But I think
there's a large percentage of humanity that's younger than you. So that stands to reason.
Yeah, I'm more than halfway through. So but I think that we got to remember that little takeaway. People want to be entertained, encouraged, or educated. That's a great. I don't know who he stole that from because young ones don't know that stuff. But anyway, I'm just kidding, buddy. Just kidding. Just kidding. It's Ryan. Oh, sorry, Colin.
I used to have a company, EEE, that was all based around educate, entertain, encourage.
You kind of sound like the EA Sports guy. EE.
EA Sports. It's in the game.
It's so good. But yeah, I think that's a great takeaway, and that's cool. And by the way, you're watching a live podcast with live commenters that can call in. How amazing is that?
Yeah, that's pretty cool. We've come a long way. We tried to figure out the call-in thing years ago and tried to do this weird Skype thing, and it just did not work.
No.
So Clubhouse made it so cool to have people waiting there. And
it turns out Skype and whatever else we were using takes a lot of data, and it just wasn't working at all.
It was not working well. All right. So let me bring up this next article here. This one's interesting. Pending home sales fell over 10% in February as record low supply stifles the housing market. So we've been talking about this now for months. And one of the big reasons why we know that home sales will start to fall is because supply can't keep up. To recap, as I always kind of do when these supply stories came up, before the pandy, in January of 2020, housing starts were up 13%. And we were looking like that was going to be the year that a lot of the builders build. They had materials coming in, even after the China tariffs and all that stuff was happening. Their materials were starting to roll back in, and we were starting to get more supply, and land was being developed, and labor was available. And then the Rona hit. Right.
Yeah. The pandy.
All of that stopped for a while. There were bills that just kind of quit because they couldn't have anyone on site because they didn't know how quite to handle it when somebody got the Rona and what to do in the quarantine and all that stuff. And it's kind of been that way for a year. I think people have slowly started to get back to it. There's a lot of builders that are now building as fast as they can, but the materials prices are 200% higher. Lumber specifically is 200% higher than a year ago. And then metals have now gone up over 30% compared to a year ago too. So this is a different reason why supply is slowed, because just harder to build. New builds used to take 4 months. Now they're taking 6 months. Custom home builds used to take 5 to 6 months. Now they're taking 8 to 12 months. So this is a very different market that we're in. But let's read the article, see what they're saying. Lawrence Yoon, he's a chief economist for the National Association of Realtors. He said the demand for home purchase is widespread. Multiple offers are prevalent, and days on market are swift. He said, but contracts are not clicking due to record low inventory. There were just 1.03 million homes for sale at the end of February, a 29% drop compared with February 2020. And if you recall, I believe at the start of the year last year, it was 20% lower than the previous year. So it's low and low on low compared to year over year compared to the start of 2019. Low on low.
Low on low.
Sales are now varying dramatically by price point because it's so lean on the low end and more plentiful on the higher end, which I would love to hear some of your thoughts. If you do work with luxury, Eureka, I'd love to hear some of your thoughts on what's happening in the high end, if it is as competitive as it is in the mid-range and low end, so we can get some firsthand feedback on that.
It's insane.
This is another quote from Lawrence Yun. He said, potential buyers may have to enlarge their geographic search areas given their current tight market. If there were a larger pool of inventory to select from, ideally 5 or 6 months supply, then more buyers would be able to purchase properties at an affordable price. So currently, let's see, do they get into the months of supply here? I don't think they tell us the months of supply in this article. They just say that it's been going down. Sales in the South declined. In the West, they fell. Basically, sales are falling everywhere because we need more houses.
I mean, it was still what was it nationally when last time we covered it? It's been a little while, but it was like a month and a half nationally.
Yeah. I don't know what the current supply is nationally. I know here locally, in some markets, it's about a month, but we also kind of did a test and we tested several neighborhoods that our minds would tell us, oh, everyone wants to live in this neighborhood. So we did a test run on some data in those neighborhoods and found out that there's like actually a 2.5, 3 month supply in that neighborhood. So although I would challenge agents to do that, although in your minds you think, man, everything's going in 2 seconds, it's a crazy market, run the data on various neighborhoods and areas in your city and various parts of your city to see what's actually happening there, to see if you're not just thinking the most popular houses that come on because all your buyers want that 1 or 2 houses. See what the other houses are, the ones that are not so cute.
And by the way, there's also some that are just as cute, but the marketing didn't get out there or wasn't priced right or something. That's how I've been flipping my searches for my buyers. Is I'm taking a totally different approach for just to find them houses that aren't getting as much traction. Now, I can't really prove why they're getting less traction, but it happens. There are those homes and they're going to get less showings or no offers. And all of a sudden, and I know this is crazy to say, but it's 12 days on market. You're like, what's wrong with that house? You know, so I literally just sent my LA buyers, Los Angeles, not Lower Arkansas buyers, a new list. Yeah, no, it's okay. A new list that kind of, comes from that type of. I'm just trying to be creative to get them into something a little different way. And by the way, we have 61 just in my city, in Rancho Cucamonga, 61 active single family listings. 61.
That's crazy.
I think that's about a third of a month right now, maybe half.
Wow.
That's
Michelle
insane.
West. She said new construction keeps increasing their pricing, driving resales prices up and pushing many buyers out. No more days on market. It's hours on market. I did share that with some clients the other night. I said, 2 years ago, our days on market were 30 and the market was at 90. And now our days on market are 3 hours. and the market's just a day or two. Melissa Morris said it's just a competitive in the luxury market there. Inventory is even worse. Debbie Rice Miller, she said luxury is equally as competitive depending on your location in major cities. People are leaving these for lifestyle because they can work from home. Well, that's interesting. That's an interesting perspective too. Matthew Clinton, he says he bought his home for 120. He'd sell for $6 million. Thanks, Matt. That's a good return. Okay, so I want to go to Yuriko. She does work the luxury market, and I want to bring her up from Clubhouse and hear what she has to say about what is the luxury market like, Yuriko? Is it like 1 to 2 month supply? Is it a 6 month supply? What are you seeing?
Hey there. Hey, Ray. So in our market, I feel like luxury is all relative because in our market, I think when you're talking about luxury, you're probably talking about like $4 or $5 million properties versus maybe in other markets, luxury would be over $1 million. But in our market, what we're seeing is luxury is definitely moving at a very fast pace. It was moving probably in the fastest pace that I've seen it in the last 17 years of being in the business. And part of that, though, right now in our area, our real estate moves lockstep with the stock market. So especially I'm located in the South Bay in the Bay Area, which is like Saratoga, Los Gatos, San Jose, that kind of area. And our prices here are like over 90% correlated with Apple stock. So as Apple stock goes up, so do our home prices and vice versa. And something that's interesting about that, in terms of when you talk about stock prices and how they affect our luxury market, is that we have a lot of like big name companies that a lot of people would know. So like maybe you know about like Netflix or you know about some of these different companies, but those companies actually don't affect us as much because the actual employment isn't as high. Whereas Apple is a huge employer in our area, which is why it affects our stock price, our housing prices so much vis-a-vis the stock prices. And then as you move further up, what we call the peninsula here, and you get to Google and Facebook, those will have, heavier impacts on their market. And it's all based upon the employment, right? How many people those guys employ. So that's what I would say about luxury in our market. And I think it's really interesting here on this Clubhouse. I know you commented on it, right? We never introduce ourselves as luxury agents because for us, a house is a house at all these different price points. So anyways, I'm not sure if that's what you were getting at, but we're definitely seeing a lot of movement in the higher end prices in our area.
Yeah, I think those are great points because, sorry, go ahead.
So I just want to ask you a clarifying question. And when you say a lot of movement, there's talk because Dan lives in LA and has witnessed the mass exodus from Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. He's also talked against it and said, no, that's not actually happening. Are you seeing a lot of people leaving for the second home markets because they can quote unquote work from anywhere now, Eureka?
Absolutely. But I will say it's dialing back. So I feel like further, like earlier on, it was even more prevalent when companies like Adobe were telling their clients, like I have a client that works for Adobe, you only have to come in 1 day a week. Those clients were willing to look like an hour and a half away for a home because he would only have to make that commute 1 day a week. Or we had like Facebook telling their clients, not their clients, their their employees, you can work wherever you want in the country and you don't have, or anywhere in the world, and you don't have to tell us until next year for tax purposes. So in the initial part of the, Rona episode, we saw a lot of people moving further and further out, but now in our area, you can see a market difference in traffic and the way just normal behavior has picked back up again. And those same buyers who were willing to go further out are now kind of looking again at staying back in. As the traffic changes, it also changes what people in their mind are kind of willing to endure. But that being said, some of those ancillary markets, like we have like the Silicon Valley on one end, and we have what's called like the East Bay, and that is typically like more traffic further away. And the further north you get, those markets have been even, crazier than our local Bay Area. So if it's kind of within the range of, good driving distance, those markets have been, even crazier than our local Bay Area market.
That's cool. Well, thanks for sharing the additional info, Eureka, because I was kind of wondering that and what's happening. Dan, what were you going to say earlier?
Well, I think, first of all, I love her distinction between, she's like, I'm just an agent. I'm not luxury. It always is interesting to me when someone puts luxury. Now, I think there's one person we all know, and he's been on the show, but Christoph Chu, I think he can put luxury on there. Yep. And then that's kind of the dude that can do that. There may be a few more, but for us, a house is a house. And I just love that she made that distinction and made it so clear, but I wanted to say, so, and I don't even know, because my clients are under 2 million. So I'm going to guess that, she kind of said it like, I don't know what luxury is anymore. She kind of put the $5 million number on it, but in some areas it is, because it used to be above 700-800, but now with houses, I think I read an article, they're 11.9% higher than a year ago now. I think you have to adjust what luxury is, which is now I think it is up over 1 million, 1.1. And then I'm seeing a difference between what happens in under 1.5 and then over 1.5. So under 1.5, buyers are willing to just kind of go whatever. They'll go 150, 200 grand over and cover the difference, hoping that they'll get that 10% back later. But 1.5, then things slow down a little bit. So I think it's really interesting to see that. I don't know if I'm truly working in luxury at the moment. I think it's just a higher end. I don't know. They have like upper middle class. This is upper mid range market, I guess. I don't know.
So we did have one other person. Deborah, did you join to talk about the luxury market?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. What are you seeing in the luxury market?
Well, I had the privilege of selling a high net worth vacation club to billionaires at my prior job before I got into real estate. And I would have to say that was luxury, right?
That's luxury. But, yeah.
Now I'm in Sacramento, and I'm the feeder market in the U.S., not in the U.S., but in the state of California for Eureka's market, because most of my clients come up from Santa Clara County with exactly what she's saying, which is this concept of, they told us we don't have to come in anymore. We got stock options. We can pay cash for these houses. And luxury up here is, the houses I sell here are the cheapest I've ever sold, because I sold in the Bay Area before that. So you have to recognize what's going on my end, which is I just lost a very large deal because Salesforce.com decided maybe they wanted to rethink that policy, and they've told all their engineers now they have to come in 3 days a week instead of 0. And so people are dropping out up here because the companies are now starting to rethink that. So we've got a ebb and flow going on here where our luxury, if you will, buyers are pulling back because they actually don't know what's going to happen. And I don't think the Mark Benioffs or Larry's busy in Lanai, but I came out of the tech world. I worked for Oracle for a long time in startups, and we bought all of our houses with cash. We just cashed in some stock options, and that's what these guys are doing. And now we're at this precipice where the companies really probably don't need sales to come in, but they certainly need operations and engineering to be able to collaborate together. It is going to affect feeder markets like Austin and Sacramento and other areas where people have migrated away from their offices. And even though Oracle and Tesla and Box and all of those companies moved their headquarters for tax reasons to Austin, they left everyone here except for, executive management. So we were really excited. We really were on a roll. And I think it's just changed.
Very interesting. Well, thanks for the ad. That's really, we've been talking about this for a little while. As soon as those companies started saying you can work from anywhere, and it's neat to hear what Eureka says. That's starting to slow down. I've heard a couple of other people that are in the feeder market saying that it's slowing down a little bit. People that are in Portland and that type of thing. So that brings us to our next question, Deborah and Eureka, which you guys so eloquently transitioned us into, is what is going to happen this spring? It has been a topic of discussion, what the crash and all this stuff. As a matter of fact, you've seen an increase in the number of realtors using thumbnails with fire, in part due to Christina and Smallhorn and her leadership, who I'm sure she'll say something in a second, because every time we mention her, I know she's here. She's watching. And we also have, Malcolm. We're in these YouTube groups, and they talk about using fire. But one of the interesting things about it is a lot of the agents that are using the fire are not talking about a pending crash. It's the ones like Susie Orman, who need to sell the books, that tend to be talking about a crash coming and what's going to happen. But for the most part, real estate agents are pretty mild when it comes to what they feel like is going to happen. So I wanted to open this conversation up. There is an article, and you can go ahead and show that article, producer Matt. There's an article on Inman that basically talks about what's going to happen this spring. What the spring means for real estate, buyers beware. And it has 3 or 4 different agents chiming in on what they think is going to happen and mortgage rates. And it's a lot of anecdotal stories. Actually, they have 5, 6, 7 agents. And basically the agents are just kind of giving their opinion. And so we have the incredible ability to bring up wonderful agents live on the show. And so I wanted to get you guys' opinion. I'd like to, Dan, I want you to give us your opinion on it. What do you think is going to happen this spring? I'll give my opinion on it, and then we could take a couple of commenters and a couple of the commenters on YouTube and Facebook, and we can also take some on Clubhouse, and we'll go ahead and close out the show. So Dan, what is going to happen this spring? Is it going to be the real estate crash that we're all thinking?
No.
What?
No. It's just, I mean,
what will happen?
So I've been in the business 10 years now. And so I've only known up, essentially. It was really weird in 2011. Then 2012 was just kind of an awkward year. The in my opinion, and from my business, the real estate market didn't know what it was. There was still a lot of shadow inventory. There was still a lot of really, really rough short sales hitting the market. Then 2013, it kind of went, oh, okay. So we're this and not that. And it kind of sped up and it kind of got crazy. I was experiencing a lot of competition. Again, I'm in Southern California, a lot of competition on the buy side. It was definitely a seller's market, but I've never really known a true flat market. I've never seen one. I've never seen anything more than 4 months inventory, 3 months inventory. It's never been crazy long amounts of inventory. So I go back, I talk to people like Ray, who literally started as the crash was happening, had a great first month. And then, and then a lender friend of mine as well, literally started as it was about to crash. Same thing, had a killer first month, and then boof, and he had to rebuild. But then I go back to my brokers who have been in the business since 2002 or 2003. And essentially where they're saying they're seeing that we're in 2005 right now as things escalate, right? As they go crazy, they're saying, just houses are hours on market. And there's a story, as we were reading through stories today, I saw that, more and more people are buying houses sight unseen. And now that could mean that they're going through Zoom, or because I have a lot of clients that I help with Zoom. I have for the last year. But so they're speeding up, and it is crazy, but I think it's different than 2005 because potentially, back then anyone was getting a loan, right? And it was inevitable that it was going to crash. And that's the way they were betting against the market. Christian Bale, if you don't know, he's an actor now, but before he was an actor, he was betting against the market. He's in The Big Short, if you haven't seen that. But so in my opinion, I don't think we can lead to a crash, but what I do believe is that there will be a very solid correction. And I think it's going to start with buyer fatigue. Buyers are going to go, dude, interest rates are now, it's really not worth it. They're at 3.5%, 4%. It's not worth it. I'm tired of looking. I'm tired of losing out on houses. I'm over it. They're going to get tired. Sellers are going to keep pushing their prices up when they shouldn't be anymore because their agent isn't paying super close attention to the market. And I think it's going to push things back a little bit. And we're going to get to the point where, and again, I don't call it a crash. I call it a heavy correction, that 10% range, because we're right now over 10% higher than a year ago. It has to chill. It has to come back. And then we'll see a little bit more inventory come onto the market. And we may even see the part where, like in 2007 and 2008, you may have to adjust your price as you're listing the home. It may be that current where buyers just aren't as available, and it may turn into a seller's market. I think that's going to happen over the course of months, though. I don't think it'll be quick. I don't.
Well, the interesting thing about the corrections, we define a correction as a 10% change, right? That's kind of what the stock market defines that correction as. Yeah. So a 10% adjustment down usually. And, we just had pending home sales drop 10%, but home sales in general haven't, mainly because low supply. As long as the buyer demand sustains, then we just have to figure out how to get more housing on the market, which will provide more jobs and a stronger economy as a whole, because builders will build. When builders are incentivized to build, builders will build. And as long as we could get materials, but materials prices are now at the point where people are looking at manufacturing in other ways and alternative resources and all kinds of stuff. So I think letting the market play out is good. I don't suspect that we'd see a crash. There's only one way I can envision a crash, and it's if all the buyers that are in the market right now are like, huh, I am so tired of this, and they sign a 1-year lease, right? And then you have all these people that are now going to rush to sell, put their home on the market. And so now it suddenly goes from 1 month of supply to 6 months of supply, 7 months of supply.
But how quickly can it do that, though? It's that would be impossible.
Well, and interest rates start to go up. So then the buyers are doubly depressed. And then the sellers are like, well, then I'm not going to. That would be, and even then it's a stretch in my mind.
But is it a crash, though? That's not a crash. It's a heavy correction, right?
Here's the headline I think you'll see if we do have a resurgence of supply on the market, and there are fewer buyers that are interested, and rates start to go up, you will see home price gains slow. That's good. They're still going to gain. Home prices are still going to go up, but they will just slow, which is going to be good for the market and affordability, which we've been saying for 2 years now, and just haven't. I do want to take a comment from Christina M. Smallhorn.
If you mention her, she will show.
I love it about her.
All you have to do is mention prefab or tiny homes. Boom.
Tiny homes. She's there. She said there will be a correction in a couple of years. Well, yes. What comes up must go down. It's been going up, and it's due to come down soon. But I think what she's saying, come down, she doesn't mean like pricing. I would suspect that she's just meaning the furor that is in the real estate market.
Yeah, the nuttiness that's going on. Because we go back, we covered on the show, but Susie Orman had a very incendiary, false, 100%, 1,000% false post on Facebook from last June, I believe it was. And essentially she said it's going to crash. Not correct. She said 50%. Her numbers were 50%. Your house is worth 300 now. In November, and you can go find the post. In November, it will be worth 150 grand. It'll go by half. So imagine if you buy a house for 300 and then next week your neighbor's house is worth 150. That was her post, and it got her a lot of likes, but it also got her a lot of comments, and most of them were like, "Dude, you're wrong." And she has another one,
3,000 some odd shares, and most of the people were like, "This lady's totally wrong." So
and it's one thing to really know your stuff and really research these markets and these numbers, but it's another thing to just try to post something just to be incendiary and try to get clicks, which is all she's doing. It's very, very transparent that that's what she's doing, and she's very, very wrong. So the people that follow her, stop.
Mario Flores says stronger lending rules on loans won't bring an 08 back. I agree with Dan. With a correction, and buyers may get tired of crazy market, especially for first-time buyers. And then he makes a comment, lots of YouTubers using thumbnails and titles make it seem like a huge economic downturn. Christina, do you know why people might do that? If you're not in the YouTube for real estate group, you should join it. Christina goes on to say some markets I think will never go back down, like Austin, Texas, with all the new tech companies. They'll never be back to prices they've seen in the past. I would agree. And Melissa Mars says she's still beyond wrong, meaning Susie Orman. So I would agree with that sentiment, Christina. Do we have anybody in Clubhouse that wants to add anything? You can flash your mic and I'll put you up. Okay, Deborah. I'm going to come to Deborah and let her tell us what her prediction for this spring is.
Keep your eyes on Janet Yellen. We to look at things in a bubble, but the bubble is much larger than we are. And right now, where we're busy trying to pick the economy back up on its feet, we have a little window of opportunity. That's why spring's going to also be solid for us, is because people who can buy and can sell will still be engaging in the market, and other people will be getting on their feet. Next year is a whole different deal. Mortgage rates are definitely going to have to start creeping up, because we are a major economic indicator, and balance is really completely off balance right now. I mean, what we're trying to do is almost a World War II kind of effort to get people back in their jobs, back on their feet and stuff. We almost have half of the world's going through a depression, the other half is doing okay. So keep an eye on the bigger picture too, because as the Biden plan rolls out, it's going to affect other parts of this. And, Janet Yellen's been around for a while. She's very senior at this. She knows how to throw the balls in the air and make sure which ones land. But, let's not just look at what's happening at a granular level, but look a little higher as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that. We've been watching her for a long time now, the previous administration and now this one. And the Fed's job, basically, and I've said this over and over, so I won't belabor it, but it's to keep full unemployment and to prevent inflation. So as we get closer and closer to full employment, I think she'll have to raise rates. And as she does, that should pull back on some of the buying. It should lower some of the pre-qualifications that people are in. Would it create more affordability? I think only when inventory comes back too. Christina, so I appreciate the comment, Deb. Christina Smallhorn says, remember when Susie said it was going to crash at the beginning of Corona and home prices were going to tank? Yep, that's what we took issue with. I took
we
her
do
down.
Remember that. We bring it up pretty much every week.
Yeah, we try. Well, thanks everyone for joining us, especially the Clubhouse crew. Thank you guys for adding your audio comments. I know sometimes you get nervous on there, so I appreciate it. Eureka did send me a text. She said in their $4 to $5 million range, they're under 2 months supply. She was like 1.4 to 1.7.
That's like hours on market for luxury, I would imagine.
Yeah, that's crazy good. So, well, thanks everybody for joining us. Thanks for joining us on the show. We'll have to move our smart home bit to next week. So we'll try to bring that back up then. But until then, Dan, could you tell everyone where they could find you?
Right below there, D-Loaded Rocks, DLUDWIGROCKS. And can I also just say, if you're struggling right now and if it's a tough time for you, please reach out to someone or accept the help that someone is offering, because people do care. And if you're doing really well right now, please take your good vibes and pass them on to the world, please. A lot of people really need it. A lot of people are struggling, even though it may seem like it. So please reach out to them. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. You can find me at Razorback, RAYZORBACK. And you can find us on Clubhouse, YouTube, and Facebook. We really appreciate the support.
I'll be on Clubhouse when they come over to Android. Yay!
Yay! Bye, everybody.
Bye.